أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيعنا أبي القاسم محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام على آله الطيبين الطاهرين المظلومين المعصومين سيما على غالب كل غالب علي بن أبي طالب وعلى سيدنا سائر أهل الجنة فاطمة الزهراء وعلى بنتها سيدة زينب وأم كلثوم وعلى رقية ورباب وليلى وأم فروة وفزة وجميع الشهداء كربلاء والأسرة واللعنة الله أعدائه أجمعين أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى تبارك في كتاب المبين وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. Brothers and sisters of Islam, Allah in our holy scripture, the great book of Allah, the Quran, He says, O people, never be afraid of the tyrants, of the oppressors. Do not submit yourself before them. Do not bow down to them. Do not side with them. But think of the ones who are oppressed. Think of the ones who are suffering at the hands of the ones who think they are powerful, who think they are mighty. Be with the oppressed. Provide them assistance. Look after them. For Allah is all merciful. For Allah, God Almighty, is all just. And above all, Allah is all love. It is His love, it is His kindness that we say Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Nothing and no chapter of Islam, history of Islam, is more vivid in this aspect than the 10 days history of the Battle of Karbala, of the powerful army of the Yazid and the devoted 72 women, children, the aged, the young and the old, with Aba Abdullah, Sayyid al-Shuhada, Amma HUSSAIN, from the field of Karbala. It is our duty in these 10 days to bring to you those from these episodes, the true grit, the true character, the true personalities who had the great strength drawn from the leadership of Hazrat Imam Hussain Islam, to tell the world ordinary men and women and children can muster the courage from the examples of the Ahlul Bayt and the household of our great Prophet Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, to ponder, to think, to present to you as well on this very topic. I am actually honored to have a brother from the Christian church who has devoted his life, his time, and with great intellectual capability has not only dug to the very depth of the scriptures and books to present to the world, especially in the field of interfaith dialogue, the position of Islam as compared to other religions and as other religions in the face, in comparison to Islam, in many ways, in the field of humanity, they mirror each other. We are all children of God. Let us draw the lessons from the field of Karbala. To present that, let me introduce to you once again our brother here, Brother Chris Hewitt. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you for your time and especially your agreeing to be here to talk about this episode, these 10 days of Karbala ending up with the martyrdom of the Shuhada of Karbala. We have talked about the great brave men who fought on the field of Karbala. But Chris, was Karbala just made up of brave men? Were there some brave characters, as brave as the men, but who were from the houses of Prophet and his followers, women who outshine many a man of this world to present to us the great contribution they made as warriors in their own right, the great warriors, the great women of Karbala.
The reality is that if Karbala had been limited to the 72 companions of Imam Hussein, we would not know what happened because they are all dead. The reality is that we only know what happened because of the witness that was borne to it by those who survived. And they were preeminently by the women of that company, and the spokesperson for that group was, of course, Lady Zainab herself, who bears witness to what happened, who conveys to us and therefore to history the details of the field of Karbala. Without the women of Karbala, we have no account and we have no story. They not only bear witness and give account, but they endure the suffering of being witness to the death of the ones that they loved in most brutal and inhuman ways. And we consider the bravery then of one who watches a loved one die in this way. This is a bravery which exceeds even the warrior in battle, for it is the bearer of the spirit behind the act, the mother who bore you, the one whose very life forces brought you into this world, and who must observe and grieve over your death. So the women are crucial to understand the message of Karbala.
I'll come back to Karbala, but let me look at the position, especially in the Islamic world, and let us see the position they hold at the moment in society is demeaning to the position what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, has actually bestowed upon them. If we look at from the time of Adam, Hazrat Adam al-Islam, Adam, when he came to this world as Allah's Khalifa, Allah's administrator on this earth, Adam cried because his life was incomplete without Eve or Hazrat HEWER. if we look from that time onward, right up to the coming of our Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, time and again, at different intervals, has shown to us the position of women, whether it's Asiya, whether it's Maryam, whether many other characters that we go through, right? We see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pointing to us that, look, in my eyes, your mother, your daughter, your sister, who may be a woman, are equally important. And if you can please see what, with your analytical mind, can you, from the Quran and our Hadith, dig out and present to the audience here at large how you see the position of women in the Islamic scripture.
If we go back to the very beginning, we're told that God creates everything in pairs.
MashaAllah, yes.
It is God alone that is created single.
Yes.
This is the principle of Tawheed. So God creates everything in pairs. Humankind are created as a pair. As a pair who interact with each other, who support each other, but as a pair of equals before God. The second important thing to remember, you remember that there is a verse in the Quran which is reinforcing the teaching both to men and to women. We are told that one of the wives of the Prophet said, the Quran always seems to be talking to men and they have all the chance for doing acts of charity. We are at home. And the Quran responds by saying, O all you believing men, O all you believing women, O all you believing men, O all you believing women. And so it's reinforcing for us that the message and the guidance of the Quran is absolutely to every single human being. There is no gender differential here. Thirdly, very important to remember, the nature of the Arabic language. If there are a group of 50 women, then Arabic will speak of them using the feminine. If one man comes to join that group of 50 women, then Arabic will speak of that group now using the masculine. That's the nature of the language. And therefore, the scholarly position is to say that whenever the Quran is addressing in the male form, it is all inclusive of both men and women, unless for some reason there is something in the text to indicate it applies to men only. So our mentality here needs to be shaped by the nature of the Arabic and the nature of the Quran itself. Now, you mentioned something of these pious women of an earlier generation. The Islamic tradition has pointed to 4 women who are not only called 4 pious women, but these are the perfect women.
MashaAllah.
These are the ones who are perfect in their total submission and surrender to God, who are therefore perfect in their Muslim character. Asiya, let us take her first, because she has a very important message to us. Asiya is the wife of the Pharaoh at the time of Moses in Egypt. She is the one who takes him and nurtures him. She is the one who refuses to give him up. Now, the crucial thing to remember about Asiya, a perfect role model to humankind,
MashaAllah.
we don't know who her prophet was. She is the follower of an unknown prophet. And this brings us a great degree of humility. We are told in a hadith of the Prophet, 124,000 prophets have been sent to the earth. How many do we know? 25 for sure, because those are the 25 mentioned in the Quran. That leaves 123,975 vacancies.
True.
So there must be this element, this strong feeling of humility. We do not know the identity of the prophets who were sent to the Egyptian people in times past, to the African people, to the people of South America, to the people of China. We know that to all the peoples of the earth guidance has been given. And Azia is a very good reminder to us of this humility. We must never have the arrogance to say, because we are the bearers of a known scripture, we are in some way superior to other human beings. Secondly, let us take the second in our chronological order.
Yes, please.
And this is Mary, the mother of Jesus. How many surahs in the Quran are named after a woman? One. And that is the one named after Mary, the mother of Jesus. Let us just consider her perfection. Her perfection in being, first of all, a child given into the service of God, growing in purity and knowledge in the temple, being prepared for this particular honor of bearing Jesus in a miraculous, in a virginal way. Imagine the strength of a young girl, a young woman, in that society, at that time, to bear the prophet Jesus against the opposition, against the slanders of those around her. Here is an example to us of tremendous courage and internal strength. Thirdly, you remember that the Quran tells us that when she is to give birth to Jesus, when her time of labor comes, she goes away to a secluded place and she gives birth to Jesus there alone. Now, what woman would want to be perfectly alone at such a time? Such a time of travail, as we say, in the action of giving birth, facing the pains of this time, the uncertainty, a young woman without the support of anyone else. We look here at a depth of courage that as men we can hardly begin to understand. Fourthly, it's very important as men just to have a degree of humility.
Indeed.
If God had so desired to create Jesus by divine command without any father, God could not have done that without any mother. Because a man is incapable of the action of bearing a fetus through the process of growth and gestation to come to birth. And so the mother in this sense is this tremendous source of life within the whole of creation. And Mary is therefore an example in all these things. When the angel comes to her to say, Mary, special greetings from your Lord, you have been chosen for a special honor, Mary accepts with humility. Just in the same way, we remember the story of Abraham and Ismail. He is asked by his father Abraham, this is what God has commanded. What do you say? And Ishmael responds by saying, if that be the command of God, who am I to do anything else but to obey? You will find in me an obedient servant. And we see that same level of commitment and obedience in the life of Mary too. So these are the first two of the four perfect women of Islam before we come to the time of the Prophet himself. And we meet there Khadija, the wife of the Prophet. She is the one who for 25 years is the single wife of the Prophet, who is like the bedrock of stability in his life.
MashaAllah.
She is a woman of business and affairs. This reminds us that those people who say that women should not be involved in commerce, well, do you tell this then to the wife of the Prophet himself? She is a woman of business and affairs, a woman who is attracted to the character of the Prophet and seeks him out first of all as her manager, and then is so impressed with his character and his work that she asks him to marry her. She takes the initiative to ask for his hand in marriage.
Nice.
She is then the one who through all those years, the years in Mecca before the Hijrah, she supports him, she supports the infant Muslim community, not just financially, but much more importantly, with that wifely strength that infuses courage into her husband and supports him and his companions during that time. Through all their sufferings, through all their rejection by their kinspeople. So we see here again and again this character of the women who are held up not just for the women of Islam, but for all human beings as perfect role models. If only we could strive to be like them. And then, of course, the fourth of our perfect women is Fatima. Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet, the one who bears his light in herself, the one who marries Imam Ali, and together the two lights fuse, and that light is then passed into their two sons, Hassan and Hussein. Fatima, the giver of life, the bearer of the two lights within her own womb. We have here four women of outstanding character that are there as examples to every human being from that time onwards.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Samain, watching this program, today we are talking about the great position in Islam of our women folk, our mothers, our sisters, our wives, in equal level. Chris over here, our brother, told you about the great role and role model and great character that they showed in Hazrat Asiya, Janabe Khadija Kubra Salamillah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them great position, especially the Quran uplifts the position of women so high that the whole surah, Surah Maryam, gives the greatness Allah holds the position of women in Islam. Brother Chris over here talked to you about the great contribution of Janabe Khadija Kubra Salam. You know, for every Muslim, one of the fundamental things he has to perform or she has to perform is Hajj. And in Hajj, we go so many times round and round the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With one view, you have come yourself to submit yourself, submission before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tell me, is the Hajj completed by just doing this and throwing the stones at shaitan? No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, wait a minute. You have completed to go around 7 times round the Kaaba. Now you go and pay respect to the lady I hold in great esteem, and that is the mother of Hazrat Ismail, Hajara. And we cannot complete our Hajj because unless and until we perform and follow the footsteps of Hajara from the 2 mounts of Safa and Marwa. And even when Hajara more or less ran or walked very fast between the 2 places, and those spots where Hajara not walked but more or less ran, we are said, don't walk, run the way Hajara ran, walk the way Hajara walked, touch the 2 mounts the way Hajara did. Then only Allah said, I will accept your Hajj. This is the status Allah has given to us. Allah is wahdahu la sharika lahu. He is from time we do not know. He was always there, He is, and He always will. So there is time, no space for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the master of kun fayakun. He says, and it happens. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from no father and no mother, created our great first Khalifa, Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, and Hawa, and Janab Hawa, also there wasn't any, she didn't have a father or a mother. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creation is mine. Even the camel of, or the naqa as we say, of Hazrat Saleh was born from the mountain, right? No father or mother required. But no, Allah wanted us to know that in eyes, as Chris said, He paired them, made them come in pairs as male and female. And in Quran they say, the women are like for me, my garments. My garments are most important to me. Without my garment, I am ashamed of myself. And the garment gives us the prestige. The women folk give us the prestige. If the position of Hajra is so important that the act of Hajj cannot be completed by just going round the God's house, then we must realize the position in our household of our mothers, our sisters. And remember, Grace knows that I myself come not too far from here, from a place called Derby. And in Derby, there is a lady known as the Lady of the Lamp. That is Florence Nightingale. In the battles when they were being fought in Europe, Florence Nightingale didn't carry the sword or a weapon or a gun in her hand. She carried a lamp from one camp to the other, one tent to the other, nursing the women. Look at the history of Islam. When the battles of Uhud or Khandaq were fought, the women didn't only just stay in the house cooking. They were on the battlefield. They were nursing. They were taking care of them. And one of the companions of our great Prophet asked, or a lady asked, why is jihad not made compulsory on women? He says, when she gives the birth to the child and the pain she goes through is more than the jihad a man can go. Chris, if that is so important, the cradle of a mother, the education brings, then why is it this in modern day and age, the duty of the father is just marry the daughter, get rid of her that she joins her husband, because the son is very important in the household.
Before we can approach that question, we need just to remind ourselves of the dignity and the duties, the rights which are given to women according to the Quran and to the Prophet himself. And then we can see how far short we fall. Because if we go back to that period, we see that a woman is a legal person in her own right. She can own property, she can dispose of it, she can inherit without reference to her husband.
Correct.
She can make her own will and leave that portion of the will which is open for you to dispose of according to your own wishes without reference to anyone else.
Correct.
Women have an equal right and an equal duty to seek education, to be educated, and to educate others.
MashaAllah.
It is crucial that the Prophet consults the women of his community before making crucial decisions. So we see that they are involved in the life of the community there. In the Prophet's mosque, when the community gathers for prayer, the women gather and pray behind the Prophet throughout his time in Medina. He builds a special door into his mosque there so that the women can come and go in peace without being hassled by men who get in their way. We know that when it comes to marriage, a woman has the right to give her ultimate consent. A marriage is a contract between two individuals. If you are forced to sign a contract, it is null and void. Therefore, a forced marriage is by definition no marriage at all. We know that a woman is to receive the mahar, the marriage gift, from her husband to her, and it is her inalienable right. In other words, it cannot be taken from her.
Inalienable right.
Inalienable. It cannot be taken from her, and failure to pay the mahar will become grounds for divorce. The husband cannot touch it and have access unless the wife so chooses to give a portion to him. We know that one of the things that Islam permits, although it is disliked, is the ability to end a marriage, to separate in divorce, and that a woman has a right to initiate divorce proceedings as well. We know that a man has the responsibility for keeping the household, for feeding and clothing and educating and housing and so on, and that all the money that the woman owns is hers in her own right. She can...
The husband can't demand and force her.
Cannot demand, cannot force, cannot take, because it is hers in her own right, whether it is money that she inherits, whether it is money that she earns. This is her money. The man has the responsibility of the household. The woman has the responsibility for seeing that her own money is used in the right way. She may decide, and in our own society, it is quite common that a woman will decide to contribute to the collective running of the household because that's the way that our society operates. But these are the rights and duties then, which are those clearly identified in the Quran and in the Hadith of the Prophet. Now, what has gone wrong? Well, what has gone wrong is the reassertion of male dominance. In other words, we must look to men and ask, why have they failed to live up to the teaching of Quran and Hadith in the way that they treat women within society. It is their sin.
Let me just ask you, my apology. Is it the feeling of insecurity that this chauvinism comes into a man's mind?
Insecurity, yes. There are base instincts at work here. I am stronger than my wife, therefore I should hit her? What kind of base instinct is this? The Prophet himself says, how could you possibly think of striking your wife and then going to bed with her in the evening? These are unthinkable things, but they are part of the base nature of the human being. They belong, as we say, to the lower nafs. And our greatest jihad is to struggle against our lower nafs. And we see in our own society here in Britain, young couples, men and women, who marry and who struggle hard to live according to the teachings and principles of Islam. But unfortunately, that's not the story in all cases or in all places. One of the best ways to influence and to oppress someone is to keep them in ignorance. You cannot claim your rights if I don't tell you what your rights are. Therefore, one of the tools that men have used in this is to deprive women of education, to deprive them of the knowledge of the guidance of God in the Quran and in the Hadith. To say, oh, you're just going to get married and keep a family, therefore you don't need an education. This is a nonsense. Education is the birthright of every man and woman. There is a hadith of the Prophet that says, knowledge is the lost property of the Muslim. Wherever you find it, pick it up. So knowledge is to be taken from every source that is good and wholesome and leads us into the path of God. But knowledge can be brought from many different sources to contribute to human welfare and flourishing. Not to do so is to deny the teaching of Quran and Hadith.
Certainly, certainly.
These are the two key pillars of the way of Islam. So how can we say that this is a Muslim act?
MashaAllah. And if we go further, the knowledge should be equally shared in Islam between man and woman. Just to give you an example, the household of the Prophet, the women were as scholarly as anyone else. Janabe Fatima Zahra Salamullah spent time and effort in Medina teaching the gospel of Allah, the Quran and the Hadith of her father to the people of Medina. And her daughters, Zainab Kulsum, did exactly that when they were like princes in Kufa. Leave alone these great personalities. Let us take the life of their household servant, Fizza. Fizza had so much knowledge and of Quran and Hadith that whether it's Salman or anybody else who came to have a conversation with her, it is written by historians that she asked and she replied, only reciting through the recitation of the ayats of Quran. MashaAllah. I can't do that, and I don't know at the present time any alim that I have come across could do that. That is the position of a servant of household of the Prophet. But the great and the important thing is to look at the role of the women of Karbala. And to shed some light, let me ask Chris. Chris, we talk about the warriors like Ali Akbar, Hazrat Qasim, Habib ibn Mazahir, Janab Hur. We talk about the bravery of Abbas, Abul Fazil Abbas. Could you shed some lights on the bravery of the women who were in the camp of Imam Hussain?
Imagine the situation of someone preparing to go from the camp into battle. Who is the one who is helping them to dress, to prepare themselves for the field of battle? Who is the one who is putting on their battle garments? Who is the one who is steeling them for the act that they are about to perform? These were the women of the camp of the field of Karbala. They prepare them for battle. They send them off into the fray. They spend their time working, praying, preparing for their eventual return. And they receive them back dead. They receive them back full of love and full of courage, because they have seen what has happened to the earlier warriors. Now this requires enormous courage. Let me give you an example that comes from the biblical tradition. There was a time of great persecution of the Jews at the time of the Maccabees. And we have an account there of a woman who has 7 sons. And the oppressors are coming and they are wanting to force them to break the teachings of Judaism. And the consequence of not doing so will be death. And they are to be tortured to death. And they say, or the oppressors say to the mother, "Mother, speak to your sons, tell them, give in, don't do this." And so the mother goes to her son and she says, "Be strong, my son. Have courage. Think of what awaits you. Think of the name that you bear. Think of the people from whom you come. Do not give in to this tyrant. Do not disgrace the womb that bore you." Not just to one son, but she does this again and again and again until all 7 of her sons are dead. And then she herself is killed by the oppressors. This is the example that comes to my mind when I think of the women of Karbala. The way that they strengthened the men as they went into battle, the way that they witnessed the horrific death that they had to endure, and the way then that they received and lovingly embraced the bodies that were brought back.
A very vivid example from the history and from the Jewish scripture. Let me give Chris and you all an example of a Christian man and a woman in Karbala. We know from our history that Wahab is a young Christian warrior from a very important and brave clan, Qabila. And Wahab, I haven't got the time to say it in full detail, but Wahab as a Christian follows Imam Hussain Islam to Karbala. He has with him his young wife and with him his young mother. Before the battle of Karbala, Wahab, his mother and his wife accept Islam by seeing the very personality and character of Hazrat Imam Hussain al-Islam. Wahab goes on to the battle on behalf of Hazrat Imam al-Islam. He goes for the jihad. He challenges the army of Yazid and he tells them that he comes from a very important, brave Christian clan, and he wipes a lot of them out of this world. But they surround Wahab, the enemies, and they behead him. And one of the soldiers of Yazid carry the beheaded head of Wahab and comes towards the camp of Hazrat Imam Hussain Islam. He sees the mother of Wahab is standing in front of them, and what they do, they throw the head of Wahab into and near the foot of her mother. The mother of Wahab picks up the head of his son, her son, Wahab. She kisses her lips, she kisses her forehead, and mother of Wahab marches towards the army of Yazid and takes her son's head and throws it back into the Yazid's camp and says, what we sacrifice in the name of Allah and give, we never take it back. That is a great woman, a Christian woman who has just accepted Islam. That is her bravery on the field of Karbala. Example to say that the contribution in the battle of Karbala is equally shared, both by men and women, and I may say even the children of Karbala. If we look at that, then just in a few nutshell, what is your advice for our young brothers and sisters watching this time to learn from the Karbala and give to the women what is due to them, given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Your last words make the point. Given to them by God. This is not for the largesse of men that they should give to women what is their due.
It is not just their generosity.
It's not their generosity. It is what God has given them. And who are we to stand in the way of the will of God? And so all that we have is placed into our hands by God to be used according to the will and guidance of God. So it's not about our generosity, it is about our obedience to the divine command.
We have come nearly to the end of our time, today's program. Let me tell you, the position of women is so vivid in the episode of Karbala. After the battle is over, a living Imam is there, SYED Sajjad, Hazrat Zainul Abidin al-Islam. And he wants us to remember from the journey from Karbala to Kufa, Kufa to Sham, that people do not forget the role Saniya Zahra, the sister of Hazrat Imam Hussain Islam, the daughter of great warrior of Islam, Hidayat Ali ibn Abi Talib al-Islam, played. The khutbahs, the challenges in the courts of Nizad or Yazid given by Janab Zainab Islamillah stands out as one of the greatest speeches ever given. Even when Yazid says to Sayyid Sajjad, Zainabullah ibn Islam, I would like to release you from the prison, what would you like to do? Even at that moment, the living Imam says to him, let me ask my aunt Janab Zainab Salamullah, then only I will give you. And he comes and he says to his aunt, what is your wish that you want us to do? And what Zainab says, Sayyid Sajjad follows. This is the status, the position, the greatness, the contribution, and the sacrifices of the great women of Islam in the field of Karbala. More than that, there is one woman whose contribution I cannot forget, and I must share that with you, is the Hazrat Baneen, the mother of Abul Fazl Abbas, brother who called himself the servant of Hazrat Imam Hussain Islam, Hazrat Abbas. Hazrat Abbas al-Bardar, the son of Haidar Karrar, had 4 brothers. Baneen sacrificed all 4 sons on the field of Karbala. And when we talk about Hazrat Abbas, he is the flag bearer of Islam. There were 2 great flag bearers of Islam. One was Imam Hussain and Hazrat Abbas's father, the Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Shuja of Islam, who carried the banner of Islam, be it in the battle of Uhud or Khandaq. And the great second bearer of this alam, or the banner of Islam, is Abbas, Abul Fazl Abbas, a great warrior. And Baneen, the mother, raised him right from childhood, prepared him, as Krista said, each mother prepared their sons to this, for this ultimate day. When on the tent, from the tents, after tents, the children's voices were heard crying, Alatash, Alatash, I am thirsty, I am thirsty. A drop of water, a drop of water. This great warrior of Islam couldn't bear the burden to hear these cries. Abbas comes to his master, his brother, and says, let me go to the battlefield. And Imam Hussain al-Islam says, but I can't let you. You are the commander of my army. You are the flag bearer of my army. He says, oh my brother, where is the army? Where is the army? They all lie dead on the field of Karbala, the Shuhada of Karbala. You and I are left. And Imam Hussain Islam, he pleads, okay, give me one permission. Let me get some water for the thirsty children of Karbala. Imam Hussain Islam says, okay. Abbas comes to the camp. The little daughter of Imam Hussain, Ruqayya or Sukana as we know, Sakina as we know, ties her little maskiza, her water bottle, right, onto the alam, the flag of Hazrat Abbas, the flag bearer of Islam. The great warrior gets onto the horse. And when the enemy sees him coming, they can see and visualize the way Ali would come into the battlefield. Like little animals, they run away from front of him. He goes and captures the Alqama, the river there, and he fills the water bottle, the mashkiza, right, fills it with water. He captures the river, he takes the water in his hand and he throws it back onto the river. Abbas is a warrior. He will not drink the water and quench his thirst before the little children do. That is the grit. That is the sacrifice. That is the willpower. That is the strength of each and every shuhada, shaheed, warrior of Karbala. Even his horse refuses to drink the water. Now he is coming back towards the camp with the alam, the banner of Islam in his hand, the flag of Islam in his hand. Now the enemies regroup, and as cowards, they come from behind. They strike him. Abul Fazl Abbas loses his right arm from his shoulder. Those who have been on Ziyarat to Karbala know the position where the first arm was seated, away from the tents of Karbala. He moves, he takes the alam, the flag, the water bottle, the mashkiza in his other hand. The enemy come from behind. He strike with the man, and his second arm is severed. Now Abbas is in despair. He knows there is no chance he can take the water to the camp, and in the meantime an arrow pierces the water bottle, the mashkiza. The water is drained. Abbas is despair is worse. He changes his horse's route and tries to ride away from the camp, from the tents, because he's sad he can't take the water to the thirsty. Then one of them is strike him on the head. Abbas falls from the horse to the ground. You know, when you and I will fall from a height, we use our hand to protect ourselves. Abbas by now has no hand. He falls face down onto the ground, and he shouts for his brother Hussain, Adrikni, Adrikni, come and help. The strength of Imam Hussain lied in the hands of Abbas. He comes to Abbas, takes his head, puts it on his knees. The blood from the forehead has filled the eyes of Abbas. He says, "O my Aka, O my master, I cannot see you. Could you wipe the blood?" And Imam Hussain wipes the blood off the eyes of Ghazi Abbas. And he says, "My master, my time has come." Imam Hussain says, "No, Abbas, all your life you have only used one phrase, that I am your Aka, your master. In the name of Allah, call me a brother, not a master." And Abbas says to him, "Oh my brother, my time has come." And Hazrat Imam Hussain Islam takes the head of Abbas and holds his brother in his arm and says, "Oh Abbas, after you and Ali Akbar gone, my strength is gone away." These were the words of Sayyid al-Shuhada. But al-Baneen not gave one Abbas as her contribution to the field of Karbala. She gave 4 Abbas, 4 children to the field of Karbala, and at the end, al-Baneen, all her had the satisfaction that they did fulfill her command and wishes and make the sacrifice in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the sadaqah of Hazrat Abul Fazl Abbas and al-Baneen and all the shuhada of Karbala, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all those who are listening to this program, watching the program, those who are ill. May in the sadaqah and the tufail of Ghazi Abbas, may the illness be gone and have shafa. May those who are seeking knowledge, and we talked about the knowledge of the women and the strength of the women in Islam, may the children and those in education gain both the dini and dunyawi, worldly and religious knowledge as much as possible. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect the places of our ziyarat, of those people we just talked about, and the places of worship. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create harmony and love and understanding between the different thoughts of Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the understanding of between Muslims, Christians and other faiths to say we are all children of that God who created us with His love, with His kindness. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un.